So Anna and Emma, and we're going to listen and let's get started.
More than 600 CEOs will be in town, including Wall Street executives such as JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon, David Solomon from Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley's James Gorman. Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from Delaware, and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp are also in attendance. So is, weirdly, FBI Director Christopher Wray. So he's there. And in addition to that, there are 51 heads of state from around the world attending the World Economic Forum, where essentially the world's elite conspire on how to essentially keep neoliberalism alive and well. I can give you more details on that in just a moment. But Emma, I saw this story after you tweeted about it, and it's just infuriating how much Senate Democrats Sinema's no longer identifying as a Democrat, but you get the point. She was elected as a Democrat. But to see her and Joe Manchin basically rub in our faces that they served as obstructionists to Joe Biden's agenda is pretty gross.
Absolutely. And I mean, the filibuster is an anti-democratic principle. And the fact that she and Manchin side by side are getting applause from that crowd is not shocking, because elites, capitalists are terrified of direct democracy. Because the House has a lot of problems, right? I mean, with Nancy Pelosi, she's no longer the leader of the Democrats, but for her entire tenure,
So Manchin and Sinema are useful to the DNC to pretend the rest are somehow actually good. That's the point. And it's so, I don't know if people like TYT Majority Report, I don't know if they're pretending like they don't know this point, that Manchin and Sinema, Manchin specifically, is doing what the DNC wants. And that's what's missing in this critique. It's because they can't include that because they're still trying to sell progressive Democrats. So yeah, let's continue with this video.
She did what she could to stamp out more progressive legislation, for sure. But at the very least, you don't need a 60 vote threshold for that. Right. You just need a majority. And what Sinema and Manchin are doing at this forum is auditioning for corporate donations for power players in that room, and essentially saying, without us, you might actually have the American people deciding on things, and that won't be very good for you. So it's not entirely shocking to me that Christopher Wray is there.
Like, do they really believe two people are against what everybody else wants on the Democratic Party, and that's why we don't have it? Is that a serious critique, Emma? Anna?
Given corporate America's fealty to and like friendliness with the intelligence community, and also just the fact that both of them are there at the same time. They are the most important soldiers for corporations and for wealthy people within the Democratic caucus more largely, because they have made promises that they are going to ensure that, despite the fact that the Senate in and of itself is an incredibly undemocratic institution. I mean, when it was 50-50 split, the Democratic 50 represented 40 million more Americans than the Republican 50. They want to add an extra layer of undemocracy on top of it, meaning you need 60 votes to get almost anything done except for budgetary things in the Senate. And so what they serve is corporate America, and they make it abundantly clear with their attendance and with their rhetoric at this conference.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible, because just to go back and provide a little more context and help the audience understand the level of disdain people like us have for the Joe Manchins and Kirsten Sinemas in the Senate.
Yeah.
They are the ones who succeeded in defeating key provisions in the Build Back Better agenda, provisions that would have allowed for Medicare to negotiate.
Oh, this is what Anna and Emma are either, and it's the same thing with Kyle. And like I said, they either are sorely uninformed, or they have that information and they're not giving it to their audience. Joe Manchin and Sinema are doing exactly what the Democratic Party want, because the Democratic Party doesn't want to do any of the things that they virtue signal they want to do. They have the same donors as the Republicans. This is what the progressive strategy has, this huge loophole, this flaw here. Are we to believe that there's a different strategy or a different plan if I'm Boeing, if I'm Amazon, and I'm donating to both parties? Am I donating and I have two different plans? Do I have a red plan and a blue plan? Or do I just have an Amazon plan, regardless of who's there, red or blue, and that's what's going to be executed? That's what's lacking in the progressive strategy analysis of electoral politics. But I digress. Let's continue.
Pharmaceutical drug prices, that would have brought the costs associated with Medicare down. And who funds Medicare? Us, the US taxpayer.
Like,
who gets
are we to believe, Anna, that these two people stopped all of that and then Biden, nothing happens from the Democratic Party? But if progressives hold out a vote, then all kind of stuff happens to them. Like I said, either she's sorely uninformed or she knows it and she's not giving that information to her audience so that she can skew them to think that the Democratic Party can be saved through progressive Democrats.
Price gouged on pharmaceutical drugs, Medicare recipients. And these goons are the ones who, again, served as the obstructionists to those key provisions. Funding for childcare, which this country so desperately needs. So many women have not been able to re-enter the job market because of the fact that
you see how to me this is terrible, and the progressive in the professional managerial class does this. What this segment is doing now, let's say you're their audience and you're not as in tune in politics. You're sharpening your anger just for two people. You're not sharpening your anger because of what Joe Biden is participating in this, what Nancy Pelosi is participating in this, Chuck Schumer. They are helping to just focus that energy of disappointment just on two people instead of the whole party.
Childcare is astronomical in this country right now. There were all sorts of things included in that Build Back Better agenda, which were effectively stripped out thanks to Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. I do want to also talk a little bit about what the theme of the World Economic Forum was this year. They're very concerned about the tight labor market. Gee, I wonder why, Emma. Why would they be concerned about a tight labor market? Meaning less workers are willing to, take the garbage wages and the terrible working conditions that some of these.
Are you talking about the railroad strikers that the Squad and progressives voted for? Is that what you're talking about? Conditions like that, like working without sick leave?
Companies are basically forcing upon their labor force, right? So it gives these workers a little more leverage in a tight labor market. They hate it and they want to squash it. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, this is what you hear constantly from business news people like, I don't know, CEOs, Fortune 500 company folks. They are terrified of the, as you say, tight labor market, which essentially means that right now workers have more leverage than is comfortable for these folks. And that's why you have Sinema and Manchin saying, hey, everything's gonna be okay. A lot of stuff isn't gonna get passed because we promise you that we're gonna hold the line on your behalf.
And that's the same thing that AOC said. Hold on, and progressives, everything's gonna be okay. We're gonna vote to break this strike. That's the problem with this progressive strategy. There's always a critique to your left because you are supporting a lot of the same things you're saying about the Democrats in the progressive a lot of the same things you're saying about the Republicans, you're supporting in the progressive Democratic party or strategy.
Into that fiction, as well as laws that are completely stacked against workers in this country.
Absolutely, and I think one of the specific and recent examples was how Congress was willing to crush the rail workers and prevent them from striking. And what they were asking for in order to prevent the strike, what the workers were asking for was something so incredibly reasonable. Please give us a few days off per year without retaliation so we can deal with family emergencies and other unforeseen issues we might have living our lives.
Manchin and Sinema is terrible for blocking this legislation, but AOC and the squad and progressives aren't cancelable for voting to break a strike. This is the professional managerial class, and this ridiculousness, like this example I just gave, is one of the reasons why they should not be the people with the mic of this on the left. They should not be giving advice. No one should be listening to the professional managerial class, people like Emma, Kyle, Anna, Jank, Sam, truly have no idea what they're talking about, and they love to use nuance when they want to cover up for a right-wing position.